Welcome to the Lion's Den. I'm your host, Ethan Peel, and today I am sitting with the very special guest, my very own stepdad, Jon Kelso.
Pleasure to be here.
Huge inspiration. This is the guy that got me into fitness, got me into getting healthy, and taught me everything I know, basically. So I brought him in here, and I decided to pick his brain, and hopefully we can get some value out of it. So, Jon, you started out your health journey. You were at, what was your weight when you...
So, my maximum weight was probably about 230 pounds.
Okay.
That's the heaviest that I got up to.
You're what height?
About 5'5".
Right. So, and I'm sure it was a big old gut.
Yeah. I had a big old spare tire, you know, on the front there.
And how much did you lose?
So, altogether, I have lost and kept off right at about 80 pounds.
How long have you kept it off for?
For about probably the better part of, I would say, three and a half years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge accomplishment in and of itself.
Pretty big.
So, starting off, right when you decided, hey man, I'm tired of being fat, this sucks. What was that breaking point? What was that kind of trigger that was like, let's do something about it?
Yeah, I think one day when I was just kind of leaning on the side of the bed and just kind of like stooping down to like just do something that's so basic, like tie your shoes. And I mean, you got all this weight bulging and everything, and it was so difficult just to tie my shoes and then not be out of breath. And I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm kind of tired of this. And I think for me, that was probably definitely the start of my breaking point where it really got to me enough where something switched on the inside where I was like, you know what? It's time to change.
Yeah. You just woke up one day and you're like, hey, that's it. What'd you do?
When I first decided that I was really going to start implementing a change, I wasn't, all the gyms were closed because it was during COVID.
Right.
So unfortunately where I worked, we were doing a lot of work from home, so I didn't really have to be in the office as much. And so on my lunch break, I would just go out to a park and I would just start walking around the track, and then, started doing that as time kind of progressed. I would get a backpack, kind of fill it up with, water bottles or just things that were kind of a little bit heavier, just to kind of make it feel like a hike, and that's really kind of how I actually started out. A lot of just walking, and then started walking with weight on my back with the backpack. That was kind of the beginning of the journey.
So your goal was basically, let me burn some calories by adding extra weight. And, just to burn more and more calories. Just
to burn more and more. The more stamina that I ended up, having, like the more I felt like I could kind of progressively keep pushing myself. And so I would increasingly make it a little bit more difficult, as time would go along. Not every single session, but, as time went along.
Yeah.
To the point where I would eventually actually start jogging and, stuff like that too.
What point did you say you were able to actually start jogging? How much weight did you lose?
hard to say exactly how much weight I'd lost right when I first started jogging, but I don't know. I probably was just walking the track and then walking the track with a backpack with weight on it, probably for a few months before I really started getting into, I would say, a very, very light, easy kind of jogging, because still with a lot of weight on my frame, every time you come down on your knees, it's pressure and it's, kind of uncomfortable. So couldn't do a whole lot right at first, but just kept kind of progressively moving along.
What was that mindset switch? I mean, you were walking and walking and walking, and then all of a sudden you're just like, let me run.
Because finally I got to the point of realizing, okay, you know what, now that I've done the walking long enough, now that I've backpacked long enough, I want to increase the difficulty. So now I wouldn't jog with the backpack on, I would set that down, but
right,
yeah, but then
be kind of difficult.
That'd be a little too much at first, but finally I was like, you know what, I need to make this just slightly harder, and I know that for myself, by actually jogging, that's going to be harder for me than just, hiking with a bag on my back, so that's kind of how it progressed.
So speaking about procrastination, everybody that starts out in this stuff, the decision to switch, they're like, hey, I'm tired of being fat, kind of like you did. They bent over, couldn't tie their shoe, all that weight in the way. I mean, there's people probably way bigger that have even bigger problems.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably some health concerns, probably stuff like, hey, if you don't get right, you won't be around very much longer. Everybody has to fight that self-doubt, though. So, and I'm sure you did along your journey.
Absolutely.
Right at the start.
Oh, yeah.
Having to fight, getting up and you're like, I just don't want to do this.
Oh, yeah. Because, there were those days where, you just, maybe didn't sleep well, or maybe just didn't feel good, or maybe you thought, I don't see any change. Like, what's the point in keeping this up? And right at first, it's very micro, kind of changes at first. But again, over time, the longer you stay consistent at something and the more you put into it, eventually the better the results are going to be. And you just have to have that mindset that, Rome wasn't built in a day, and your body's not going to change in a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. You just mentioned, what was it,
Just micro changes, micro adjustments to things.
Okay.
Microscopic progress at times.
Digging it out a little bit.
You might be like, you know what, I've gone however many minutes out there, maybe I can push it one more minute, or you start thinking, man, this pair of pants, it's just slightly looser than it was like a week ago, or you don't need to weigh yourself every day. You don't need to, because you can get too obsessed about certain things like that, which I went through a period of being kind of obsessed about some of that. But really, it's just knowing that you got to trust the process to be consistent over a long period of time. And the longer you do it, usually the better results you're going to get.
Right.
As long as you stay with it.
Yeah. There's a book, Atomic Habits, that talks about making small changes. I see that as kind of, make the decision to change, and then you set probably the smallest possible goals you could set.
Yeah.
To get to the bigger goals.
Yeah, small goals, because it's all of its building blocks,
Right.
Not that I'm a builder, but I'm sure when they're building a house, they got to lay the foundation, and then they got to put up some walls, they got to do all these little things that every little piece of it comes together, and eventually it creates something. And whether you're talking about just getting out there and doing a little exercise, and then of course, what you're eating, what you're drinking, how well you're sleeping, just your mental state. It all becomes these building blocks, to eventually, you're going to get to some kind of a designated end at some point, and you hope, obviously, that it's the goal that you want to have.
So going back to the self-doubt
Mm-hmm.
and the procrastination side of things, what would you say your mindset was to get through that? So what would you say, like, you wake up, you're like, I don't really want to go. What pushed you?
I think for me, because I knew that I had let myself get out of kind of control, at least in my own estimation, because I knew that there was no reason that I needed to be 230 pounds.
Right.
And if I was honest with myself, it's like I was eating all the wrong things, drinking all the wrong things, eating way too much of the wrong things, just all the time. And I had done that for the better part of the last 10 years. And I finally got to that point where I was like, you know what? I got to quit procrastinating. I got to do something, because if I don't, nothing's ever going to change.
That was your big motivation then?
Yeah. Knowing where I had kind of been living for the last probably 10 years, of starting to get to that point where I got up to that much of being overweight, that it was like, you know what? Even on those days where I didn't want to get out there and do any kind of exercise, I would always try to remind myself that, hey, you spent a long time in the past of not doing anything and eating whatever you wanted, drinking whatever you wanted, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, you could go back to that, but you know where that road leads. So the only way to change it is to make different choices. Sure. So I think for me that was a driving force, because I knew where I was and where I had kind of started, and I didn't want to revert back to that, you know.
Sure. I make the decision to change. I'm as let's say in your case, I'm 235 pounds.
Yeah.
I want to drop weight. Did you even know where your goal weight was? Right.
So I really never had a specified amount of weight that I was kind of shooting for on the scale. Like my thing was more, I know I just want to be healthier.
Right.
And I know that in due process of being healthier, I'm going to shed weight. Like I knew that would happen. I just didn't know exactly what weight necessarily I'd get down to. But I started really small, you know, like, for example, like regular sodas, you know, I would just cut those out. And I might even do a few diet ones, but sometimes I would just cut all of that kind of stuff out. And slowly over time, like, you know, like all the fried foods or all the stuff that I kind of knew, like highly processed foods, or things that I knew were just really bad for me, I would either completely cut it out or just kind of really like minimize how much of it I was actually having. And I would opt for a whole lot more of like the whole foods and a lot more water, you know, and other things that weren't sweetened with sugar that were going to have a lot of calories, you know.
So from my journey with you hitting the gym and constantly are talks about nutrition and stuff like that, I know we've dug into macronutrients.
Yeah.
And talking about protein, talking about carbs, talking
protein,
about
carbs, fats,
all that stuff.
All that.
Now, coming from a perspective of, again, I'm 235 pounds.
Yeah, about 230, but yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
We adjust that. 230. And you're sitting here thinking to yourself, from knowing you, I know that you have a big drive.
Yeah.
And usually you will obsess and then you will just crush it all the way through. But somebody who doesn't have that big of a drive, would you say they have to sit there and count every single calorie? And
no, because really, it really comes down to, I mean, I'm a firm believer in you'll get out of whatever you put into it, but at the same time, my personality is I get a little, when I get hyper focused on something, I get a little obsessive about it. But do I think you absolutely have to be that way to have a goal of losing weight, getting healthier? No. I mean, most of us, we all know if our like dietary habit is fast food and sodas and cookies at night and stuff, we all know that if we just start limiting that or cutting some of that out, then we're naturally going to lose weight, you know? So I don't think you have to count every calorie by no means, but I think you should probably try to at least be aware of like maybe how many calories you're having per day, so that you can then kind of make some adjustments to say, okay, well, you know, maybe at night if I'm having 500, you know, excess calories and chips or cookies or whatever that I like to eat at night, well, you know, maybe I need to stop doing that at night, you know? And just by natural default, you're going to start losing weight just because you're cutting out some of that. And it's not to say you can't ever have anything that you like to eat or drink, because I mean, I still do. I just am very aware of what I'm having and how much I'm having.
Now, we've talked about making your food work for you.
Yeah, instead of working against you.
Right. So dig into that a little bit.
So, I mean, kind of like, you know, your money, it's like, you know, I mean, if you go to your job, you're working kind of for your money, but at some point, you know, you might want your money to work for you in terms of maybe investments or whatever, you know, that might help that money grow. But yeah, your food is kind of, to me, kind of the same philosophy. Like, you want the food to work for you instead of working against you. So when you start kind of learning how protein, you know, it satiates your body a lot more than carbohydrates or like fats. And I mean, and that protein will help, you know, rebuild your muscles after a workout. You start learning that like good kind of carbs, like the complex kind of carbs, that those will really fuel, you know, your workouts, and you start having those more before a workout. You start learning, you know, that healthy fat, I mean, not donuts, obviously, but, you know, but things, you know, like fish or like, I mean, even whole eggs have healthy fats, or avocados, or you start learning that a lot of that stuff will start working for you, and it'll help your body more efficiently, not only build muscle, but burn fat at the same time. So a lot of people, you know, it's like not only, you know, is their goal to lose fat, but they want to lose fat and build muscle simultaneously. Sure, yeah. And you can do that when you kind of really start getting your nutrition more dialed in. So, I don't know, it's kind of my philosophy on it.
Yeah. How'd you even learn all this stuff?
A lot of it, honestly, like, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist or anything like that, but I mean, a lot of just kind of researching on the internet, a lot of trial and error with like what worked for me well, what didn't work for me well, a lot of just inspiration that I might have got from different, YouTube kind of videos of people that were doing certain things. I'm also a huge believer in intermittent fasting. That has tremendously helped curb a lot of cravings, and it's helped me to really regulate, I would say, like probably my blood sugar levels, and it enables me to, I feel like, eat a lot more food at certain times instead of eating like, I don't personally like to eat, 4, 5, 6 meals a day.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I can eat pretty much 2 meals a day, get all the calories in for the day that way by intermittent fasting. And I don't know, it's been a great tool, and that's to me what it is. I mean, kind of like a builder has a toolbox. Well, it's a way of having a tool that just kind of helps you get to a goal.
Okay. Talking micronutrients again, which ones should you even focus on? Earlier, you said proteins, you said complex carbs, you said some kind of big names there. I know there's a whole bunch of macronutrients that you could dive into.
Yeah, micronutrients. Your macro ones are mostly just protein, carbs, and fats.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
those are your three main ones.
So protein, carbs, and fat. I know that when we go and work out, before we go and work out, we slam down a Cliff Bar to give a little energy before.
Yep, absolutely.
At lunch, at round 1, we were having carb-focused lunch. So
maybe fair amount of protein, but definitely a lot of times like a higher carb focus.
So why focus on carbs?
Because the protein, from what I have read and understood, the protein itself is what really helps to repair the muscles after the workouts. It helps them to just repair faster, helps them to grow. The carbs, that's kind of like your immediate energy source. So for me, being a little more carb focused, pre-workout is better, because that way I have the most energy that I can focus for that workout. And then after the workout, I can focus a lot more on rebuilding the muscles and repairing them and growing them by having a lot more protein, maybe.
Right.
So like at night, like I try to limit how many carbs I usually have.
So you aim for more pre-workout. I'm fixing to go slam a solid workout at the gym. I'm fixing to go push a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
I want energy.
Yeah.
I want a little protein, because it's healthy, but mainly I want some energy. So you go carbs.
Oh yeah. So like I'm a huge believer in like just good, carb sources like brown rice or oatmeal, or you can do some bread, but a lot of times, bread's not my first choice when it comes to like carbs. I prefer more carbs in their natural state, I guess.
Now, why not bread?
Because a lot of it has a lot of kind of hidden sugar in there and just stuff like that, and it never felt like the bread keeps me full as long as, say, rice, or like maybe different kinds of beans, or like oatmeal, or just things that are in their more natural state. So bread can be an option to a degree, but I really personally try to steer clear of just a whole lot of breads. Even like whole grain breads, I really don't do a whole lot of breads.
I know we do a lot of rice.
Yes.
To me,
we do a lot of rice.
from my experience, my journey, man, I'm knocking rice packets down a day. I mean, you can do rice and beef, you can do rice and chicken, you can do rice and
rice is just, it's just a great energy source, and it's filling. You can put it with almost anything. It just goes well with so much stuff, and it's satiating. So it not only gives you that, energy, but keeps you full longer. And I don't know, I really like a lot of rice. And depending on what I'm doing, like if I know I'm going to, not work out for several hours, I'll probably have more brown rice. If I'm going to do a workout like within a shorter period of time, I might have white rice, because it'll absorb.
Now, why is that?
Well, because a lot of times like that white rice, it absorbs faster. The brown rice is healthier because it's got a lot more of the nutrients in it. And it'll also just be a longer lasting carb. It doesn't break down, to my understanding, as fast. The white rice breaks down faster, which if you're going to burn it off faster is fine. But a lot of times, because, I might be eating 3 or 4 hours before I even go to the workout, I want that brown rice to keep me full longer. And plus it just has more nutrients. So
right.
I would say brown rice is a better overall choice in most cases.
And when we say brown rice, I mean, we're talking about brown rice, not fried rice.
Right. Yeah.
They're both brown.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, fried rice is good. We all like fried rice, but it's not
fried.
ever going to be the healthiest. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're eating right. You're making this distinction. You're making your food work for you by, okay, hey, I'm fixing to go crush a solid workout. I need carbs. Okay, I just crushed a solid workout. I need to not have so many carbs because I don't need the energy now. I need protein. What are some good everyday items that we can go to Walmart and get?
Yeah, I mean, chicken, obviously. Beef, fish. I love eggs. Eggs are one of them, what I would call superfoods almost, because it just has pretty much everything in it that the body really needs. I mean, it's got the protein. It does have some carbs. I don't think it's real heavy on carbs, but it's got a lot of protein, a lot of healthy fat, and I'm a big believer in eating the egg yolk too, not just the egg whites.
Right.
Now, depending on, what your goals are, I mean, the egg whites are more the protein part of it, and some people do a lot of that too. But yeah, I mean, especially, eggs, beef, chicken, fish. There's other protein sources. I mean, Greek yogurt's another good one, cottage cheese. There's some other options everyday items that you can get.
So when I was learning about nutrition from you, I've learned just by training under you basically for a good solid year.
Pretty much.
Seeing what you're eating, seeing what you were doing.
Yep.
I mean, what I've noticed is it's not necessarily what you eat all the time. Okay, if I go in and I knock back a packet of Uncle Ben's, and then I go grab some some of that packet of chicken of the sea salmon that's got 30 grams of protein in it, which I love, and then I go crush a solid workout.
Yeah.
Then I'm done.
Right.
I do my normal routine. I come out, and then I'm hungry again. It's been maybe an hour. Okay, so I'm going to focus on something that is going to fill me up to last until, because again, I fast in the mornings. I don't usually eat breakfast.
Right.
So I need something that's going to sustain me all the way until 1 o'clock the next day.
Right.
So for me, the challenge was always trying to find something that would fill you up but not be carb heavy. For me personally, I always did like a good solid glass of milk.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an option. Yeah.
I felt like that always helped with my dinner, of course, and my dinner was just low carb but high in protein.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you maybe can dig into that maybe would fill you up a little bit and kind of keep you going the next day?
Yeah, I mean, like especially like in the evenings, I mean, you do want to focus, I feel like, on, maybe a higher protein content. I mean, you could even do like kind of red potatoes, because potatoes are one of those things that, I mean, they're filling. I mean, they're carb, but I mean, especially if you're intermittent fasting till whatever, noon or 1 the next day, I mean, it's going to help keep you fuller longer that way. Me, it really just kind of varies, because I've gotten very good at understanding my body, I guess, and kind of understanding like what it can tolerate and what it can't tolerate. I'm also kind of one of them type of people that is a little obsessive in the fact that, regardless of sometimes if I'm hungry or not, like I will still push through.
You're going to have to starve sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody has the same level of discipline and what they're shooting for. But I mean, I can't tell you how many nights, like I ate dinner, but I didn't overeat, but I still went to bed kind of hungry. And then, you go to bed a little hungry. That's a little bit whatever. You wake up the next morning, you're still a little hungry. But, maybe you have some coffee, you have some water, maybe you have a diet drink. Not that I'm advocating diet drinks are the best thing in the world, but I mean, but still, it's not got calories in it. And then, that kind of carries you through until you have that first meal of the day around maybe 12 or 1. And, for me, that's just worked really well. Even though sometimes, maybe my energy levels up till that first meal might not have been super high, but then again, I wasn't also trying to go work out at that time of the day.
True.
So now if I was going to go work out at that time of the day, I'd have to adjust things and switch up some things that I was doing probably, but
okay.
But everybody's body's a little bit different,
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's going to be those times where you're just going to have to embrace the suck in a sense, because you're going to probably go through those little periods of time where you're a little hungry. Your stomach's going to be growling, and I mean, it's part of the process. You're not starving to death as you're probably feeling like you are. You're just going through those growing pains. And another thing that I really noticed too is like every level that I would get to of like losing gain, another 5 pounds or another 10 pounds or whatever, kind of all the way on down, is, at first, you think, oh, I'm so hungry, I could never lose another pound and still be alive, right? But it's not true, your body, once you get down to a certain point where your body's natural kind of rhythm of being where it wants to be is at for your height or whatever, then everything really starts to level out a lot more, and you start to realize how many calories maybe you really need in a day, and that's going to be a little different for everybody, because it depends, and it also depends how many you're expending when you're working out, how hard you work out, if you work out, there's a lot of variables.
Be working out if
you should be working out, because that's healthy for you. You should be. It's going to help you with muscle tone and just losing weight in general.
No, I feel confidence too,
Yeah, and it builds your confidence, because the more things that you achieve, those challenges that you overcome, and you're like, well, man, 4 months ago I wasn't able to lift that, and now here I am lifting that, or I'm going an extra mile or whatever. And it does, it boosts your confidence, and it really kind of gives you a purpose, helps you set new goals.
So let's say, okay, you started, you've begun the process, you've already kind of adjusted, you've started your process of working out, you kind of got into the habit, you're like, okay, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
How have you adapted it to where now it's a lifestyle, now you're maintaining it?
Like how am I maintaining it?
Well, right. So like, okay, instead of now just trying to create the habit of doing this, doing that, watching this, watching that.
Right.
Because at first you're going to have to build the habit.
Well, right. You're going to have to get some knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
How are you now changing it to where you're maintaining for a lifestyle change?
Okay. So yeah, I think for me, now that I've pretty much laid a pretty good foundation for a lot of it, like now it's just kind of micro adjustments here and there. So like little tweaks here and there. I don't have now that I'm down to the actual body weight that I'm at now, like I'm okay with that. Like I'm healthy. I feel good at the current weight that I'm at. Could I lose another few pounds? Be just slightly more lean and shredded? Yeah. But is that really necessarily my goal? No. So now my goal is more, I want to tone more, to get to a point where I'm lifting a little bit more on this exercise or that exercise, because I want to be as strong and healthy as possible without obviously any kind of performance enhancing substances or
as natural as you can.
Yeah, all natural, natty. All natural, because I'm not trying to do anything that
we talk about it all the time, that there's those bodybuilders that are just mountains, and they can throw around 700 pounds, but chances are they probably couldn't run 2 miles. And then on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you've got those super high endurance guys that could probably run 20 miles in circles around you, but they couldn't lift more than 100 pounds.
No, they might not be able to do a single pull-up.
I know that your philosophy is a bit of that balance point somewhere.
Yeah, like I just want to be well-rounded, I guess, in my overall health and fitness journey, because I'm not really trying to be one extreme or the other. I don't want to be a huge bodybuilder that's on all kinds of gear and then have heart problems and or anything like that, or other problems, and I don't want to just be a super lean runner that can't do a single pull up. You know what I mean? Like I personally desire to be balanced overall. And that's pretty much what I aspire to do. So
well, I think also it's that concept. I think most people that are trying to lose the weight that they're trying to lose, they get intimidated by these people that have they've done it, right? Like you've done it, and I'm sure when people look at you now, they're like, man, that guy is shredded. I wish I could be that way. But what's crazy is I know when I started, I thought, I gotta be this big bodybuilder, I've gotta be able to deadlift 500 pounds, all this crap.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, I feel like most of your average people that get on this health journey and they get intimidated by this health journey, they create all these assumptions. You're just trying to stay at your absolute optimum potential that your body can achieve.
Exactly. While being like completely natural, just whatever sleep you're getting, your nutrition, the intensity of your workouts. That to me is all I need. I don't need to have any kind of performance enhancing anything, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't play around with all that.
So how has this journey, digging into the mindset a little bit, how has this journey affected your faith, your confidence, like your relationships, just your life overall? I mean, say, you know, starting at 230 pounds, you felt this way, and then now, okay, I've lost all this weight. What has it done, you know, just in general?
Well, I mean, like as far as my faith, like it just showed me that, you know, with the Lord giving me the ability that, I mean, man, I mean, just anything is literally possible. Now, I mean, you have to do your part for sure, but you trust Him for those, especially those times when you don't feel like doing it, you know, or you don't want to eat right, or you don't want to whatever, you know, you just keep trusting Him, you know. And then as far as like confidence wise, yeah, I mean, you know, confidence is a lot higher than what it was for sure, because I know now like what my ability actually is compared to what it was. And yeah, it's been pretty amazing. I mean, it's just been an amazing journey. Yeah. I never, you know, intended to get that far out of control, you know, at the time, of course, but just knowing that you can change it, you know, it is reversible, you know. Now I know there's some people that, you know, maybe were a lot heavier than me, you know, and it probably in some ways is a lot harder, but still you got to start somewhere, you know.
Well, sure. And how would you say it's affected people around you? I know at least in my case, we're family, so I see you all the time.
Yeah.
And seeing you lose all that weight, you know, I looked at myself and I'm like, oh, frick.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit overweight. I need to get serious now while I'm young. You know, that way when I get to the point where I'm where you're at, age-wise, I'm not 235
It's much easier
pounds.
And better if you start the younger you are, for sure, because everything gets a little harder the older you get.
Right. But I mean, as far as me goes, you have been an inspiration to me to get started. Appreciate it. I know my little sister Trista, you've been an inspiration to her because now she's going.
Yeah, she's doing good.
How else would you say, based on who you've talked to, who you've hung out with, how would you say it's affected your people around you, your relationships?
I mean, I think at least in my inner circle, I think it's affected everybody in a positive way. I mean, everybody's, you know, I think proud of the accomplishments, you know. I mean, sometimes I'm sure some of them think I'm a little anal about how I do certain things, but you know, that's just kind of part of that's just my drive, I guess. Part of it's my personality. Part of it's, you know, sometimes being a little too obsessed about this or that. But for the most part, I think it's been pretty positive with the way that everybody perceives it, you know. And hopefully, I mean, it's inspiring others. You know, that's part of my goal too. Like I want others to be inspired, because if I can do it, believe me, if I can do it, anybody can.
Now, what about digging a little even deeper than that? What about your marriage? How has it affected your marriage?
I think in a lot of ways it's improved it. I mean, sometimes, you know, it can put some strain on it too, because, you know, sometimes, you know, maybe I'm not at home as many hours that I could be because I'm at the gym or whatever. So there's a checks and balances kind of thing to it. I try to course correct certain things, you know, like when I first started out, like, boy, I was probably 3 hours a day in the gym, which is a little excessive probably, but I've toned that down to where I'm not there near as long now as what I used to be. But, you know, now that I've lost a lot of the weight, you know, it's easier to kind of maintain it without having to necessarily be there as long too.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you know, over time, there's certain things that I maybe don't do one thing as much of as I did at other times, or I don't really do as much running as I used to, but there was a time, you know, when I was logging them miles.
So the word of the day that I'm hearing is balance.
Absolutely.
You know, you got to find that happy ground in the middle. You need to lose the weight, obviously. But like you said just a second ago, I don't need to spend 4 hours, 3 hours at the gym
you really
to accomplish it. You can be obsessed without being overly obsessed.
Yeah. I mean, you need to care enough, you know, that you're going to push yourself, but at the same time, like, you don't need to be to the point where, you know, you're obsessing about every single little thing. That's just going to mess with you, you know. I mean, it's really more than anything, I mean, more than me trying to be like anybody else, it's more of a challenge for myself against myself, you know. Like when I'm deadlifting or I'm bench pressing or I'm doing this or that, you know, like the one that I'm challenging is myself, you know. I'm consistently trying to, you know, push myself myself a little bit further, a little bit harder. Not every single session, because there's times where it's just maintaining, but here and there, that progressive overload,
Yeah, that I would say the lack of comparison is a definite boost to your own confidence, because you're sitting there looking at somebody who's probably, it could even be you.
Well, yeah.
Somebody's looking at you, or...
Yeah, and I've had people like that just kind of come across my path. They're like, man, I wish that, I could look the way you look. I wish sometimes I could look the way that somebody else looks, and it's like, all I know for sure is, I'm trying to be the best version of my own self that I can be, and that's all anybody can really do. I mean, because it's not really very healthy to try and compare yourself to some professional bodybuilder or some whatever, because truth is, I don't want to train 4, 5, 6 hours a day and have to eat 6, 7, 8 meals a day, and that's really not my goal. Now, for some people, that might be their goal, but for me, it's more just to be healthy, to be as strong as possible, to be natural, and to just love life.
Yeah. A year ago, I can't say that I am where I am today on my fitness side of things, and I'll admit I'm not perfect.
And nobody is.
I still have my moments. I go and I get a little crazy with the dessert, because I've understood just training under you that you don't always have to sacrifice everything.
No, you gotta
balance it out.
Yeah, you gotta live life a little bit and treat yourself a little bit here and there. You can't always say, well, I can just never have a donut, or I can never have a piece of cake or whatever, because it's like, you get one life to live. You need to enjoy it, but you know what? Sometimes I just need to have some moderation. Maybe I don't need to have it sometimes. Other times I allow myself to have it. When I got up to my heaviest, it was because my choices were, I was allowing myself to have that stuff every time, all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was way out of kilter. It was just way out of balance. So my body reflected that.
Right.
So.
Well, that and the consistency. Just constantly getting in there and getting it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you skipped several days. I know you skipped.
Yeah, there's been times that I've just, because either I didn't feel good or because I just didn't feel like going, I've just straight up skipped. I mean, because we're all human. We're going to have those days. But the main thing is to build a lifestyle habit around what it is that you want to do. So regardless of if you miss a day here or there, regardless, maybe you completely bomb your eating one day or maybe 2 or 3 days, but you got to get right back on it, Don't beat yourself up too much for being human and sometimes kind of falling off the wagon. Just
right. I mean, we all do it.
We all do it. Yeah.
So
we're not perfect.
Now that you've made it, I mean, you enjoy strength training, so obviously you're gonna aim
like
at
as far as
training.
my overall body weight, like I'm at a good body weight now for my height and size and everything. So I'm fine with that. Yeah, more now it's just about trying to get stronger in different areas, maybe more stamina in certain areas, just staying healthy, staying fit. But as far as like just do I need to really lose much more actual body weight? Probably not.
Because you're at probably about on average 150.
I'm on average. I'm usually around 150. I mean, the absolute lowest I have gotten down to has been 145. And then there's been some times where I've kind of been staying around 147, 148. But I will say that my body feels the best and strongest and healthiest for me at about 150.
Well, see, now that you mentioned that, it reminds me a lot of the journey is gut feeling.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Right. Because, I mean, the thing is, regardless of any number on a scale, if you're always feeling like crap, you're not going to be able to go lift as well. You're not going to, again, it's got to be a lifestyle. It's got to be something you enjoy doing. It's got to be something that you're going to stay and stick with that will be healthy. Because it's not just about, you need to be aware of the scale, but it's not just about the number on the scale. When I got down to 145, that was a pretty low number on the scale, but I didn't feel very good and I didn't feel very strong and I wasn't lifting as heavy. So now, that I'm more where I'm at, I can lift heavier, eat more, and still stay at that range.
Right. So what would you tell somebody? Someone comes in, they're like, hey, I'm just an average guy. What would you tell somebody in that position? What advice would you give them to start and stick with their journey?
Yeah. Probably the very first thing, because like if say they're not really doing any kind of just exercise at all, I mean, regardless of what they're eating, like first thing I would say before you even worry too much about changing the way that you eat and all that is just start moving a little bit. Because if you just go for a walk, go for a little hike, because the more you start moving your body, not only are you going to burn calories, but your body will start to realize kind of really what it needs versus what it wants. Yeah, I would say just start small, start walking, get on a treadmill, go out to the park, whatever. Just start moving your body, because you need to move your body. That's one of the best ways, to start burning weight off,
Right.
I mean, yeah, some people, they think, well, I just need to starve myself. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because, you might succeed for a few days, but then it's going to catch up to you, and then you're just going to binge, and you're going to be right back where you were. So, yeah, I mean, don't even worry so much about just trying to alter your diet too much right at first. Just start moving if you're not used to moving. And then as you go along, I mean, you can start learning, okay, well, roughly how many calories do I eat a day? And is that really what I need? And, start, kind of adjusting things.
So what's some good resource tools that we can use? Now, you've mentioned a lot, some inspirations that you use. You've done a lot of research, obviously Google, obviously YouTube.
Yeah.
But a little more specifically, what are some tools that we can kind of look at?
I mean, intermittent fasting is a great tool. It shortens your feeding window. So, I mean, you can only eat for a specified amount of time during the day, and then you force yourself to fast, which is going to force your body to burn, when it's not used to maybe burning things. You can always do like MyFitnessPal. You can get like a little food scale, start maybe reading the nutrition labels a little bit more. I mean, definitely YouTube, videos for things are very informative. Google, there's a TDEE Calculator, which kind of, you can just plug in your height, your weight. It'll kind of estimate roughly how many calories you should probably be eating in a day. And then kind of like what, like 500 or so less will help you to shed like whatever it is, a pound a week or, So there's just tools like that,
Well, I appreciate you coming in here and talking to me a little bit about it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to chat about it. And for me, man, it's been a huge inspiration to be able to just come in, learn all this stuff, not from Google, but from watching.
Yeah.
Being able to see how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Losing 80 pounds is not an easy task.
No, and honestly, and the harder part has actually probably been not even just losing it, but keeping it off. Because your mindset, sometimes you still want to overeat. You still want to, do the same habits that you were just used to doing for so long, So to me, the greater victory has been keeping it off than even just losing it to begin with.
They don't stay consistent. Right. Well, and also, from my faith side of things, I basically was like, hey, I don't want to start getting heavy. I want to stay fit, period. The earlier I can learn how to do this, the much better off I'm going to be down the road.
Long term.
When I hit 40, 50, whatever years old, even if I'm not cracking it at the gym all day, every day, I've already built the lifestyle. That allows me to be the absolute most effective for the kingdom I can be. If I can't get up out of bed,
exactly,
I can't go preach.
Your body is literally the vehicle that you get around this world in, so it's kind of like a car. It's like, well, if your car takes unleaded gas, if you go in there and put diesel in it, it's going to malfunction pretty quick. But kind of the same thing for your body. I mean, if you fuel your body with all the wrong stuff, you're not going to get the performance out of it that you want to get, and eventually it will start to revolt and break down, and people start having a lot of problems and a lot of issues, and not that everything can necessarily be corrected through just diet and exercise, but an awful lot of it can be, and we are what we eat and drink. So better to fuel ourselves with more whole foods and things that are less processed, and then of course move our bodies, whether you go to the track, whether you go to the gym, whether you go do something at the pool, but just move your body. Yeah.
Definitely. Our body is our temple, or is the temple that we serve the Lord through, and that we
absolutely
can't get to your goal if you can't get up out of bed.
Exactly.
So that's kind of my mindset. Well, that's it. That's all the time we have for, man.
All right.
And I appreciate you coming in here and chatting with me. And
absolutely. Just kind of the average married dude, like working that 40-hour week kind of job, So if I can do it, literally anybody can do it. You just got to set your mind and your heart to do it. That's really all it comes down to.
Thanks for tuning in. Ready to take the next step? Visit OmegaDesignGRP.com to learn more and embark on your journey towards success. Remember, In the pursuit of your dreams, hesitation is the enemy. Slam your foot on the gas. Go full speed towards your vision. Let Omega fuel your tank and build the roads to get you there. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep striving, stay inspired and motivated, and never stop chasing greatness.